And welcome. Welcome everyone to Mechanics Institute. My name is Alyssa Stone. I am the Senior Director of Programs and Community Engagement here at Mechanics Institute, and I am so excited to look out on this fabulous sea of faces for National Poetry Month. We are so excited to celebrate National Poetry Month here at Mechanics Institute with, of course, these incredible guests that we have. I'm going to read out their bios, but I would love to give a warm Mechanics Institute welcome to California Poet Laureate Lee Herrick, San Francisco Poet Laureate Tongo Eisen-Martin, and Oakland's Inaugural Poet Laureate Dr. Ayodele Nzinga. Could you join me in welcoming them? We are truly so honored to welcome these incredible guests here to our fair institution. Has anyone, or is anyone joining us here at Mechanics Institute for the very first time? Fabulous. Welcome. Oh, I love how many hands shoot up. I hope that it is the first of many visits to Mechanics Institute. For those who are less familiar with our institution, Mechanics Institute was founded in 1854, so we are celebrating our 170th anniversary this year. We are a cultural center, historical landmark, gorgeous multi-story library, world-renowned chess program, and events center like what we're doing this very evening. We are a hub for writers, readers, cinephiles, chess players, and lifelong learners. We have anywhere from 5 to 15 events per week here at Mechanics Institute, something for everyone. I hope that this is, for those of you who are joining us for the first time, the first of many, many visits here to Mechanics Institute. We are a membership institution, so people join us to have access to our full-service library, writers groups, book groups, cinema events, chess tournaments and classes, and community events. So I hope that you will consider joining us by visiting milibrary.org and joining us as a member or as a guest again at one of our future events. I just want to highlight a couple things that we do have coming up. Next Thursday, we have our Music at Mechanics concert series with cellist Rebecca Rust and bassoonist Friedrich Edelman in concert together. That's next Thursday, April 11th. The following Thursday, April 18th, we have an Earth Day panel celebrating innovators creating sustainable communities. So I hope that you'll join us for one of those featured speaker events. We also have a few special things just for April for National Poetry Month. We have a newly formed poetry writers group that is seeking a few additional members. Our writers groups are an incredible way to connect and build a trust-based community of writing. And if you are interested in that, please let us know. We can get you more information. And I want to highlight something new in the library. We have all of our new poetry books on feature on the second floor of the library. So if you are feeling the spirit of poetry this month and every month, do check out our new poetry books on the second floor of the library. With that, I'm very excited to introduce our special guests for this evening, who are going to read from their work and be in conversation with one another. And towards the end of our program, we will open it up for Q&A, question and answer. And we do love questions and less so comments. So please think about what questions you might have for our esteemed guests, and we'll have time for Q&A towards the end of our program. With that, I'm very excited to introduce Lee Herrick, who is the California Poet Laureate. He is the author of 3 books of poems, Scar and Flower, finalist for the 2020 Northern California Book Award, Gardening Secrets of the Dead, and This Many Miles from Desire. He is co-editor of The World I Leave You, Asian American Poems on Faith and Spirit. His poems appear widely in the Poetry Foundation, Academy of American Poets, The Place That Inhabits Us, poems from the San Francisco Bay Watershed, Invisible, poems of social justice with a foreword by Common, Here, poems for the planet with a foreword from the Dalai Lama, and Dear America, letters of hope, habitat, defiance, and democracy, among others. We also are pleased to welcome Tongo Eisen-Martin. Originally from San Francisco, Tongo is a poet, movement worker, and educator. His curriculum on the extrajudicial killing of Black people, We Charge Genocide Again, has been used as an educational and organizing tool throughout the country. His book, Someone's Dead Already, was nominated for a California Book Award. His book, Heaven is All Goodbyes, was published by the City Lights Pocket Poets series and was shortlisted for the Griffin's Poetry Prize and won a California Book Award and an American Book Award. His latest book, Blood on the Fog, was named one of the New York Times Poetry Books of the Year. In 2020, he co-founded Black Freighter Press to publish revolutionary works. He is San Francisco's 8th Poet Laureate. And we are pleased to introduce Dr. Ayodele Nzinga, who is a multi-hyphenated artist, poet, educator, and community advocate. She is the director of the Lower Bottoms Players Inc., co-founder of Jenga's House Black Women Arts Collective, and a founding member of Black Space Cooperative. She is the executive director of the Black Arts Movement Business District Community Development Corporation of Oakland. Nzinga is the inaugural Poet Laureate of Oakland, California. She is the author of Performing Literacy, A Narrative Inquiry into Performance Pedagogy, The Horse Eaters, Sorrowland Oracle, and Incandescent, and her work can be found in numerous journals and anthologies. Please join me in welcoming Lee, Tongo, and Ayodele.
First, I must apologize to the souls of the house because I'm wearing the cheekbones of the mask only. Like a pill bottle whose name is yours, name tagged on the side of a factory of teeth of the mask now. Back of the head of the mask now, new phase of anti-anthropomorphism finished for real faces. Stuck with one of those cultures that believes I chose this family. I'm not creative. Just the silliest of the revolutionaries, my blood drowned on my only jacket. The police state psychic middleman evangelizing for the creation of an unmasked and unmet, their blood of a lamb less racialized. For awesome prison sentence. Right angle made between a point on a Louisiana plantation and a 5-year-old's rubber ball 3 feet high and falling like a deportee plane to complete my interpretation of garden variety genocide. I'm small talk about loving your enemies a little more realistically. About paper tigers and also gold. I need my left hand back. Broke my neck on a piano key. Found paradise in a fist fight. Maybe I should take into the Cuba line. Watching the universe last metronome. Some call black Jacobins. Just wait. These religions will start resigning in a decade or two. Some colorfully, some transactionally in a cotton gothic society. Class betrayal, gone glasses. Ironically, my window started fogging over too. As I was trying to figure out which hay to get me through the winter, which poem houses souls. Which socialist breakthroughs. Breakthroughs like taking 10 steps back and finally trying stillness. Like introducing Gabriel Prosser to Thelonious Monk. I remember childhood. Remember the word childhood being the beginning. Scribbling on an amazing grace I read in this body from some circumference of slavery. Remember being kicked out the Midwest. Strange food theater, lithium and surfaces, like-minded stomachs, the ruling class blessing their blank sex with levy foam. And with opioid teeth. Cynthia Dallas yelling to each other, pocket to pocket. Cello stands in the precinct for a company of counter-revolutionaries. My mother raised me with a simple thing. Poet loses his mind. Like the room has weather. A first girlfriend, gravity. Difference between me and you, the madness won't be forever. A pair of apartments defining both my family and political composure. Books behind my back, bail money paid into the streets, playing euphoria cliche. Bracing for the medicines, recoil, sharing a dirty deli sandwich with my friends. Black Jacobins. Underground photography of a grandmother's hands. Psychology of the mask now. Teeth of the mask again. That's my cousin eulogized now in literary history. What wasn't pretty, this effect on my eternal soul. Like belated parenting, we haunt each other in quick bursts, sample the drug, wrestle the angel, no depth of setting. Imagine what defines a creature. where remnants of concrete put none of the world down except slabs of a deadbeat nationalism or a bloodline making the news again. True, I have an absence of style. I'm just a doorstep moving dead body to dead body. Picture 1960s newspaper clippings and teeth hanging on a string like a book of life, cigaretting a pen, calling Black Friday prayer, unscrewing the blues on play down. Ladies and gentlemen, we know what you all are not doing. Mainly you all are not leaving the universe to its childhood. The spirit world up and starts murdering city trees, our psychic re-break, sleeping in my car Sunday chores, the allegory of new hard R's, no going to regular people jail, no going getting hunted by regular people cops. I mean, all I dream is physical death. Thinking about God and God empty in clumps of prison, my poem, my cubist remade scar, my Saturn for adults, my junkie industrialism. I knew my father as much as I want to be known. While the ruling class is printing judges, fiat kangaroos, making judges hand over fist. Raptured cop packs in opposition, whites all above a thorny stem. Cast plans picked out like vans for the murder show. Anglo saints addicted you to a power structure. You want me to raise a little slave, don't you? Bash her little brain in and send them to your civil rights. Like normal speed bullets changing a normal life. Like walking back to the United States in defeat.
I always need a minute after I hear a Tongo poem. In all the best ways, you know. So I think the plan is that we'll have a few minutes of conversation after the poem. So, I mean, Tongo, good to see you and incredible to hear you always. I was listening to that, and some of the things where my mind goes first often in your poems is the socio-political, but I noticed, maybe I was just tonight, but there's a lot of family, childhood, fatherhood, motherhood. Can you talk a little bit about that, how that appears in a poem like that for you?
Yeah, you know, I think especially in a time where heightening social contradictions creates so much more violence, the kind of the tightening or the constricting of your consciousness or psyche, like it lands on your immediate kind of, or the first couple tiers of your closest relationships. And so, you know, my last little batch of poems were written in a time of accelerated violence. The cousin I referenced was A.J. Stewart, who was killed by white supremacists in St. Paul, Minnesota, for parking behind his house. And I spent, you know, a couple years bouncing back and forth between here and St. Paul, trying to organize, you know. I mean, when it's like justice is impossible for murder. You know, it's like I think what they don't tell you is it's an expanding hole. You know, like they die every day, or they're murdered every day. Like, or anytime somebody wants to talk to somebody, or you know, wants to see someone, or in the rhythm of family, every time that person is not there, it's like they're murdered all over again. So, you know, transmuting this kind of energy became the task of the recent poem.
I think I heard it, Eddie. You want me to raise a little slave and that's her, Eddie. So, self-edit, did I pick that up?
I did, yeah.
And that has to do with the fact that you now have a daughter.
Yeah.
Your poems are a really interesting web of complete familial and community love and extreme violence against systems of oppression. So along with that self-edit, the gendering of that poem, becoming a father, does it make you hold that web of extreme love and extreme violence in a different way? Will that author new poems? Will that put another perspective in future work?
But it's definitely a strange juxtaposition, getting to know this new fellow traveler while watching the scenes of carnage in Gaza that involve so many children. So it's like you watching, like, you know, I got my baby right here and I'm looking at dead babies, or dying babies or maimed babies and children. It is like, you know, this almost like an oppressed fatherhood. What you learn is that, like, you know, what's supposed to be, what should be just a kind of a sacred window for, you know, for me and my family to just hang out in, or a sacred portal, or a nice little private universe to hang out in, uninterfered with, you know, it means nothing to this system. And I think about, you know, I mean, it really just, it points me to, like, the barbarism of capitalism. Even if it's just that slow death of having to alienate your labor for 8 hours a day, like, it's ridiculous that life doesn't get a chance to be prioritized, let alone, like, exalted or imbued with good social energy, mass energy. So there's definitely this like these different divergences of consciousness, but at the same time, she's such a kind of a powerful orientation, and the best, you know, advice I've got from multiple people whose wisdom I respect and enjoy, all said just like, you just lean into it, you know. And so in that leaning, there is the sweetness, you know, this kind of the atmosphere, like the change in atmosphere, is pretty, you know, stands pretty invincible. But eventually, you know, she's gonna have to leave this living room, you know, or leave these two rooms. The bedroom and the living room will be left in. We're gonna be in this big bad world. So, a big bad and farcical world. So, my kind of praxis remains the same, because ultimately I can try to play it safe a million ways, or hedge my bets and try to dance, you know, dance in between the repression and try to provide some kind of semblance of sanity, a sane environment. But ultimately, it's not until this, you know, these societies are completely transformed, that there's even that safety and nurturing that we wish for our children, like, is even, like, truly possible. So, you know, I'm really not one to operate with blindfolds in general, but the eyesight has definitely gotten even sharper and more urgent with this newborn.
Oh, yeah.
I wanted to just say thanks to Alyssa for all of the work, and Laura and Kathy, and everybody at the Institute. And thank you all for coming out tonight. My California. Here, an olive votive keeps the sunset lit, and the Korean 20-somethings talk about hyphens, graduate school, and good pot. And a group of 4 at a window table in Carpinteria discuss the quality of wines in Napa Valley versus Lodi. Here, in my California, the streets remember the Chicano poet whose songs still bank off Fresno's beer-soaked gutters and almond trees in partial blossom. Here, in my California, we fish out long noodles from the pho with such accuracy you'd know we'd done this before. In Fresno, the bullets tire of themselves and begin to pray 5 times a day. In Fresno, we hope for less of the police state and more of a state of grace. In my California, you can watch the sun go down like in your California, on the ledge of the pregnant 22nd century, the one with the bounty of peaches and grapes, red onions, and the good salsa, wine and japchae. Here, in my California, paperbacks are free. Farmers markets are 24 hours a day and always packed. The trees and water have no nails in them. The priests eat well. The homeless eat well. Here in my California, everywhere is Chinatown. Everywhere is K-Town. Everywhere is Armenia Town. Everywhere, a little Italy. Less Confederacy. No internment in the valley. Better history texts for the juniors. In my California, free sounds and free touch. Free questions, free answers. Free songs from parents and poets. Those hopeful bodies of light. And then I'm going to read another one. Thank you. It's a very new poem, but I think it's ready. Acclamation. My first language was the ocean. It sounded like my first mother's body. Wave, storm, vanish. I love what wind does to the trees. I want nature to move me like that. My name is a song. In it, there are horses, fed by a man who says, I feel American when I kill a row of ants and say they asked for it. We are this many miles from desire. We are immigrant turned imperialist. I love what wind does to the bay. Wave to me. Smile at me like you know my name, like you love the ocean too, or at least the way I glisten under the stars. Thank you.
I have a question for you, my brother. You have such a, I was so happy to hear the news. And there hasn't been a Glory to California for a while, right?
Yeah, there were a few years where there was no one there.
Yeah. And oh, can I turn it up? There's nothing wrong with that microphone up and turning it off. Bring it down to something, turning it to half strength. You have such a like a kind of like a loving grasp, and almost like stewardship of collective biography. And I remember in a previous conversation, you told me, or you maybe you've been told or wrong, how you experience sound differently. I wonder, well, one, I'm interested in hearing more about that. But also, I wonder, like, how do you experience people on the front end? You know, just looking for actionable intel.
I appreciate the kind words. And I'll get to your question, but when you're reading, because I experienced the world first through sound so much, it feels like only part poetry experience for me hearing you. I just go somewhere else with your voice and the way just the music and the language. So as an adoptee, I was never privy to my birth records or my medical history. And probably about 5 years ago, did a DNA test, which I have mixed feelings about, but I discovered that I have a hearing condition, and I learned the name of it. And I always knew there was something different with the way I processed the world, mainly through hearing. And so, thank goodness for poetry for so many different reasons. But that's how I filter the world and then back out through a poem. How I experience people on the front end, I mean, if I were to think about it in a sonic sort of way, I just see the music, and I think of everybody. This is going to sound, I hope this doesn't sound trite, but I do experience people as music or sound. You know, somebody asked me recently, when did you first hear a poem, or what was your first poem that was read to you? And I've started saying recently that I think I had to have heard poetry in Korea as an infant before I was adopted and became Lee Herrick. I mean, I have no way of proving that, but I believe it, and sometimes that's meaningful enough, you know?
Oh, yeah.
I've also started to think of it as reclamation. You know, I can't access a lot, and, you know, that's helped me a lot, the writing and the sound and the reclamation in the poem.
I'm interested in your relationship with place, the ocean, the land, and how you weave political observations into your observation and your relationship with the landscape, the environment around you.
That's interesting. So, you know, in this laureateship, I was talking to somebody earlier. I'm really discovering how big this place is, California. Bear with me. I've learned these numbers, but you know, we're almost 40 million people here. 10 million more than the next most populous state, which is Texas. We have more people here than Canada, and more people in California than the least 21 most populous states. So, with place, I actually grew up in Danville in the East Bay. I don't know, is that considered East Bay? East Bay?
Yes.
In the 70s, and but I lived in Fresno now almost 30 years. Fresno is a place, I mean, I think any poet is just going to make its way into our work. Very gritty, hot, a lot of great work ethic in Fresno. But I always feel best near the water. I need the ocean. I'll take a lake, a creek, a puddle, you know. Puts things in perspective. I used to think it's just free and open, but now I'm realizing how much politics ought to still be part of that conversation. It's not just the day at the beach, you know. But yeah, and then it all just makes its way into the poems, you know. Yeah.
So I'm gonna do a melody for you. A bunch of poems are all smashed together. Your job is to keep up and see if you can tell when we're in a different point. Compound complex fractures to the psyche. 100 miles an hour, fireflies on the dashboard, blueberries and cherries in the rear view. And I'm still behind. Those warm, wrapped in cotton comfort, softly sleeping, dreaming, soy lattes. No keys for the car. Don't matter. There's no engine. A present from the government to ensure I arrive on time for my failure to rise. Confusion woke me, dreaming someone else's dreams of an ill-fitting suit I could not shrink into. They followed the trail of stars falling from my hair. I became a long-distance runner, cloaked in a North Star frame of mind. It didn't matter that they ate the moss off the trees because the path remembered me, hounded by blueberries and cherries and rabid dogs in the swamp. Defenders of property and crooked lives, lawless law screaming, lay down dead, don't make me shoot you. Stop resisting being invisible. They'll never see me coming. In my dreams, when I fall, I learn to fly. In my grandparents' dreams, I was born flying. It's the song from the graveyard and the ocean that wakes me. In the midst of falling stars, I claim myself, remembering to remember, planted like a tree, only sky above. My gods favor me and thunder. Some like gin, others like rum. The drum vibrates the wind. The path is cleared before my LA. The child guards the road. That's a red Shango above my front door. I walk in the red. Nah, you don't want to trouble with. Forty white. Out of the closet white, smelling of cotton, eyes lit by torchlight. The Redeemer come to lift the dream that never was. Exceptional, manifest, natural selection, pushing the purchase of firepower. Bang, bang, hurdy-burdy, the bear is here. That's the result of wolves and Cadillacs with Lambo upgrades. Crazy in the daylight. Rubbing your eyes will not change the channel. Normal insanity interrupted for naked mayhem. Look, see. She say, you got to see further than just looking. And all that got lost in the crowd. Everybody turned backwards, eyes closed, trying to understand how the day got here. Ain't no pennies in that drawer. The dresser lives on the sidewalk. The sidewalk is melting, and don't look, maybe you won't fall through. You remember there ain't nothing underneath. Even the graveyard moved. You forgot everything, and it's too late now. Pennies pay the ferryman. Hope lives on the other side of the river. Think hard, it might stick out. Charts, lucky powder, and time. How did today get here? The face in the mirror got stars for eyes. Wolves in Lamborghinis issue orders for new worlds, crane and bulldozer dreams. Neo-colonial blueprints for a cultural renaissance. Bones ground into feathers trending on eBay and Etsy. All artists report immediately to Homeland Security. RFPs required before completing your current thought. Where are your blueprints? They didn't see the crash coming, chasing the wave overhead, underwater, after pawning the guns in rage. Your breath on the outside of the window, steaming the surface. You wrote your name. The sun came up on your dresser, living on the sidewalk. You broke the mirror because your grandfather kept trying to escape with those North Star eyes. Praise turned American blues. Fingers moved looking for pennies in the drawer. Speaking hope like fragments of language forgotten in shards of mirror on melted sidewalk. Roots in a pouch hanging near your ribcage, dangling from the cord suspended from your third eye.
I got a question. Like your poetry is such a like a crossroads. You're such a conduit with this very nuanced channeling. And in your life praxis, you also are like channeling as leadership. I wonder, how do you experience the contradiction of what's valued in this society? So in a time where, you know, 'cause fascism is so culturally shallow and simple and just about the emotional, like emotionally charging simple statements and still simple ideas. How does your praxis stand so kind of triumphantly in contradiction with the way the society is organized right now? And has that like evolved over time?
I run errands for dead people. And with that as a foundation, there's not a lot of room to be reacting because dead people have seen everything. So it's an action-based praxis. I have a mission, and that mission existed before I drew breath. The path has been clear. My job is just to stay on it. Mostly I'm engaged in a conversation that's at least 400 years old here. And until that conversation is resolved in some sort of satisfactory way, then my ancestors are old. And I can't offer the future bankruptcy. There has to be some way of remembering to remember. I think that a lot of confusion is caused by our failure to remember. We're often even involved in conversations where we're told we should forget history because history is history. Is it Baldwin who said history isn't history, history is right now and it's always present? And so I think that attention is very fragile in this world. I think that there's too much stimuli with social media and the instant gratification, the 32 channels, and you can have anything brought to you and delivered within 24 hours with little or no effort. I think that creates such a distraction until we are able to live the events of our lives without ever really engaging in all the wonderful things that could happen in the space of a lifetime. You know, a lot of horrors spring up in a generation. So if it takes centuries for solutions to spring up, you gotta pay attention. You can't allow the channel to be changed so easily.
Can I follow real quick? Because it's funny, the last thing you said, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to step on the please. Applause the last thing you said really reminded me of this observation of looking at the newborn. And that is that, like, we really are supposed to live in a comfortable, gentle, humane world. Like, we really do come out not jerks. Like, this little kid, like, she just doesn't want to be uncomfortable, you know? 10 times out of 10, it's just something digestive. As long as the digestive situation is cool, she is just curious, alert, smiling at people, you know, and just agendaless. Really, and her like her communication is godly in a way. And so you see, like, and what's going to happen, we're all going to just dump a monsoon, excuse my language, I would like to keep it scientific. We're going to dump a monsoon of bullshit on her. And then she's going to adjust her nature to said bullshit. But you just see how artificial it is. When you look at, you know, someone fresh, I just wonder, like, you know, being so solid on the path, when you were super young, how did it feel to you? And how did the dance begin?
You bring up a poem I did not bring with me. I understood that the world was magic when I was little. I've always paid attention to things that were small. One of my favorite things to do is to lay on the ground and to look at the ants and the insects moving down in the grass and wonder about their families and their plans and their thoughts and their histories and their relatives, because I'm sure they had them. I remember very, very clearly incidents of astral projection when I was younger. The idea that children are open and they get closed up is something that I can very much relate to. The astral projection incidents were a thing I remembered when I got older. And when I remembered them in great detail, I realized that you somehow developed the ability not to be in the room that you were in, and you actually played with this ability. As an adult, when I try to do that, it does not come that easy. There is something that wants you not to fully understand the fragility, the beauty, the majesty, and the magic of being human. And when I was little, I dreamed exactly the life I have now, in a circumstance of great, great difficulty. And I have no doubt that that is a result of some sort of personal force, some sort of personal magic. But that narrowing that you talk about, I think I purposely, I'm one of the broken ones. I wouldn't close the prison. You know, my mama told me I shouldn't do what I do, I should be a teacher. I didn't listen. And I teach in some ways, but, you know, I'm much more of a rainbow chaser. But I tell you, I work for dead people. This is how I get it done. So, I remember childhood very vividly. And I wish we all remembered childhood that way. I think growing up does a weird thing to you. You then have children, and somehow you don't remember surviving all the dangerous things you did when you were younger in order to learn the world. I think if we remembered being children, we would raise children better, and we would understand the sacredness of what children carry with them, and we would do a better job of guarding it for as long as we possibly could, or perhaps we would go ahead and change the world so that it would be safe for children.
I think if it's all right, we'd love to hear poems from each of you one more time, and then we can start to shift to our Q&A.
I go to the railroad tracks and follow them to the station of my enemies. A cobalt-toothed man pitches pennies at my mugshot negative. All over the United States, there are toddlers in the rock. I see why everyone out here got in the big cosmic basket, and why blood agreements mean a lot, and why I get shot back at. I understand the psycho-spiritual refusal to write white history or take the glass freeway. White skin tattooed on my right forearm. Ricochet sewage where I collapsed into a rat-infested manhood. My new existence is living graffiti. In the kitchen with a lot of gun cylinders to hack up. House of God in part, no cops in part. My body brings down to Christmas. The new bullets pray over blankets made from the old bullets. Pray over the 28th hour's next beauty mark. Extrajudicial Confederate statue restoration. The waistband before the next protest poster. By the way, time is not an illusion, Your Honor. I will save your deaths for last. You are witty, Your Honor. You're moving money again, Your Honor. It's only raining one thing. Non-white cops. And prison guard shadows reminded me of spoiled milk floating on an oil spill. A neighborhood making a lot of fuss over its demise, a new Lake Forest Black Panther Party. Malcolm X's ballroom jacket slung over my son's shoulder, the figment of village, a new news to a new white preacher, all in an abstract painting of a president involved slavery some time, didn't it? The tangible screech of military boats and election Tuesday cars, a cold-blooded study in leg irons, proof that some white people have actually found the nooses. And sundown couples made their vows of love over opaque piece plastic and boat action audiences. The Menger every second is definitely my favorite law of science. Found the news clippings of primitive Methodists, my arm changes imperialisms. Simple policing versus structural frenzies. Elementary school script versus even wider white spectrums. Artless bleeding and the challenge of watching civilians think. Terrible rituals they have around the corner. They let their elders beg for public mercy. I'm gonna go ahead and sharpen these kids' heads in the arrows myself and see how much gravy spills out of family crest. Modern fans award with their t-shirt poems and t-shirt guilt. And me having on the cheapest pair of shoes on the bus, I have no choice but to read the city walls for signs of my life. You know, apparently too much of San Francisco was not there in the first place. This dream requires more condemned Africans, or put another way, state violence rises down, or still life is just getting warmed up. Or army life is looking for a new church and ignored all other suggestions. Or folktale writers have not made up their minds as to who is going to be their friends. You know, this is the worst downtown yet. And I borrowed a cigarette everywhere. I've taken many a walk to the back of a bus that led on out the back of a storyteller's prison sentence, then on out the back of slave scars, but this is my comeback face. I left my watch on the public bathroom sink and took the toilet with me. Threw it at the first bus I saw, eating single mothers half alive. It flew through the bus line number and on out the front of the White House. Hopefully you find comfort downtown, but if not, we brought you enough cigarette filters to make a decent winter coat. A special species of handshake that's all know who's king and what's the lifespan of uniform cloth. This coffee needs to quit acting like those birds singing. Rusty nails have no wings, have no voice other than that of a white girl dying. There are book pages in the gas pump. Catchy, isn't it? The way 3 nooses is the rule. Or the way potato sack masks go so well with radio codes. Or the way condemned Africans fought their way back to the ocean only to find waves made in the 1920s, burnt up piano parts, European backdoor deals, and red flowers for widows who spent all day in the sun mumbling in San Francisco. red flowers, but what is the color of a doctor visit? There are book titles in the streets. Book titles like, Hero, You Make a Better Zero. Or, Hey, Fur Coat Lady, the President is Dead. Or, Pay Me Back in Children. Or, They Hung Up Their Bodies in Their Own Museums. Other book titles pulled from a drum solo. Run Here, Hero, Lie at the Hiding Place. All the bullets in 10 precincts know where to go. There's no heaven nor any other good idea in the sky. Politics means that people did it and people do it. Understand that when in San Francisco and other places that was never really there. I bet this ocean thinks it's an ocean, but it's not. It's just 6th and Mission Street. All know who's king. King of thin things. You know, like America, I'm proud to deserve to die. I'm gonna eat my dinner extra slow tonight. In this police state candy dispensary you all call the neighborhood. No set of manners goes unpunished. Never mind a murderer's insomnia or the tea kettle preparing everyone for police hours.
So I can't remember where we were having dinner once after an event, maybe northern part of the state, northern Bay Area. But I wanted to ask you this question then, and I'm remembering it now. You know, poets sometimes are asked, I was asked once, what were you listening to when you wrote that book? And I hope it's not lost on readers or listeners, but the grace and the beauty in those lines. But the question's about the political sensibilities, the consciousness. This isn't a question like who inspires you, but if there are some go-tos for you that you return to time and time again, whether it's a book or a musician. I know you do a lot with music around the country, around the world, I think. But are there some that you just go to and kind of get you thinking and get you writing?
There are so many people to pray to, it's ridiculous. And also kind of steal tactics and strategies from. But the best relationship I've ever had to watching a great work, even when even from different eras, is a feeling of permission. So like when I read R.G. Lord, I am influenced with this permission to just, throw everyone around, push anything around. That there's, to take all the brakes off. Or Roque Dalton as well. The Last Poet. I go on and on. Coltrane, Nina Simone. It's that it's watching somebody, it's watching someone else's reckless abandon that is the best, kind of like the best influence to return to.
The work is heavy. It's heavy. One might say, in some ways, even dark. You again, this web of this agape love, and then this rage. People often they have misconceptions, I think, about black joy. I sort of think that the joy is omnipresent. And so my question for you is, where do you find your light in all that darkness? And you don't get to answer with your daughter. How did you do it before? Where's the light? What makes you smile? What makes you feel light?
I think it's in the lucidity and a kind of a clarity and like a fun fact. As I'm writing, it's really not it's not much of a matter of emotion. just like it's not personal as they intend for me, it's not personal what I send back. You know? And if you didn't want me to do it, you shouldn't have done it. You shouldn't have mass murdered millions of people. You shouldn't have put millions of people in chains. I would be happy to talk about something else. So I think it's, you know, actually centering an internal peace is the ideal, is where I hope to operate from in art, in a random conversation, in a walk by myself down the street, in all in all seconds. So, you know, I'm actually pretty easygoing in my experience of this genocide or multiple genocides, because it's, you know, until I'm punched out, until they punch my ticket, I'm gonna take my time carving it up.
So, I was born, I think Alyssa mentioned, I was born in Korea and adopted when I was somewhere around 10 or 11 months. I don't know my exact birth date, which is fairly common for transnational, transracial adoptees, especially from Asian countries. Have not met my birth mother, or first mother, we call them. So this poem is sort of a love song for her, and then it became a love song for adoptees everywhere. How music stays in the body. Your body is a song called Birth or First Mother, a miracle that gave birth to another exquisite song. One song raises 3 boys with a white husband. One song fought an American war overseas. One song leapt from 14 stories high, and like a dead bird, shattered into the clouds. Most forgot the lyrics to their own bodies, or decided to paint abstracts of mountains or moons in the shape of your face. I've been told mothers don't forget the body. I can't remember your face, the shape or story, or how you held me the day I was born, so I wrote 1,000 poems to survive. I want to sing with you in an open field, a simple room, or a quiet bar. I want to hear your opinions about angels. Truth is, angels drink too. Soju spilled on the halo, white wings sticky with gin, as if any mother could forget the music that left her. You should hear how loudly I sing now. I've become a ballad of wild dreams and coping mechanisms. I can breathe now through any fire. I imagine I got this from him, or you, my earthly inheritance. Your arms, your sigh, your heavy song. I know all the lyrics. I know all the blood. I know why angels howl into the moonlight.
All
right, thank you. And then just gonna read one more. Little change of pace. Do any of you like word games, Scrabble, crosswords? Will you show of hand? You like Wordle, whatever? All right, quite a few of you. Yeah. Wordle. Yeah. I always wanted my people. Anytime I'm around people who love word games, I grew up, my mom was an artist, and she was a really big crossword puzzle person. Every day, especially on Sunday, was an exciting day for her. But anyway, this poem is sort of started with that, a crossword puzzle on a flight where two other people had already begun the crossword. Flight. The in-flight magazine crossword partially done, a corner begun here, scratched out answers there, one set of answers in pencil, another in the green. And the woman with the green ballpoint knew the all-time hit king is Rose. And the Siem Reap treasure is Angkor Wat. And the woman, perhaps en route to hold her dying mother's hand in Seattle, forgot about death for 10 minutes while remembering her husband's Cincinnati Reds hat while gardening after the diagnosis. Her handwriting was so clean. Maybe she was a surgeon. Maybe a painter. No. What painter wouldn't know 17 down? Diego's love. 5 letters. In a rush, her dying mother's voice came back to her. Or maybe she was a Chinese adoptee, and her first mother's imagined voice said, "Woe ai me." At 30,000 feet, you focus on 33 across. Asian American classic. A woman, when a stranger in the window seat sees the clue, watches me write in W, and she says, "Warrior." And for a moment you forget it is your favorite memoir. And she reminds you of lilies or roses, Van Gogh or stems with thorns, art galleries and romantic cities where she is headed, but you should not go. And the flight attendant grazes my shoulder. The crossword squares, the letters, the chairs and aisles seem so tight in flight, but there is nothing here but room, really. Maybe the next passenger will know what I do not. 64 down, 5 letters, purpose. And why do we remember what we do? We know the buzz of Dickinson's fly and the number of years in Marquez's solitude, but some things we will never know, as it should be. Why the body sometimes rumbles like a plane hurtling over Southern Oregon. How exactly we fall in love, or if Frida and Maxine Hong Kingston would have loved the same kind of tea.
I wanted to ask you about kind of it's almost like this gravity, a dynamic of gravity in writing in which, especially on like earlier in the journey of writing, you feel pulled or drawn to, subjects, people, themes. But then there's kind of a turn, and you can almost sense the poem pulling people and fates to you. How do how has that experience been, and maybe what's your take on, that fabric?
Yeah, I love that. That's the best. I don't know about you two, but I was feeling that in both of your readings when this velocity kind of takes over. There's a little bit of a craft element. At least in the later versions of a poem for me, I love syllabics and beat. The first 10 concerts I went to were all rap shows. I actually met Chuck D recently, saw him in 1987, and I just loved the lyricism and the beat. And then you know what I saw after the 10 rap shows was U2 and the Pretenders. Everybody sharing their hummus. But a line like, I want to sing with you in an open field, simple room, quiet bar. And then once I can get in there, then something I hope just kind of takes over. And then people and disparate lives. I'm sure any psychologist worth their salt could probably say that this relates to my adoption and not knowing a lot of things with family. But I do like thinking about people's lives and how they intertwine and things like that. So, yeah, if that can happen in a poem, that feels good. I mean, that feels good for me just as a person, not even as a writer. I like thinking of synthesis more than division, you know.
My question is kind of the same question, it's just phrased differently. You, all these small details that sort of tell a story to me and strike me as a person who collects details. I bet if I looked in your left pocket, it'd be full of details. So my question is sort of about where is the tipping point where all of the details become a piece, or is the process more, I'm in a piece and all of a sudden it would be nice to contemplate what kind of tea Frida drinks,
Yeah.
and then you pull it out of the pocket.
Yeah, that's a great question. I was reading a poem called The End of Poetry, where this poet writes about, it's just a list, the whole thing. And it's this refrain, enough of this, enough of this, enough of this, enough of this. And then it's about a 30-line poem. And then the end it says, I want you to touch me. It's like, you know, I think it's intuitive maybe for each poet. Let's see. You know, I think about songs, for example. You know, those bands that, you know, Mars Volta or Led Zeppelin or whatever other group that plays like 10, 15-minute songs that kind of wander and their own kind of journey. I mean, if it's just detail, then, you know, what separates that from like a grocery list or something, right? So there has to be something to take it out of the list or the detail, whatever that might be. And those are fun places to see where it goes, you know. Yeah, I'll write it.
Like a poet.
Thanks.
We'll have our final poem read by Ayodele, and then we'll shift into our audience Q&A. And just as a reminder for folks, we do have books for all three of our Poet Laureate for sale this evening. So please make sure you grab some of their incredible works.
So this is the year in which James Baldwin would be 100 years old. And so I've been immersed in Baldwin, a couple of Baldwin activities, and Baldwin is actually, I told you I work for dead people. Baldwin is a resident inside of my venue for this year. So I like intertextual connection. And there's a poem that I urge you to go home and read to fully understand the poem that I'm about to share, which is a new piece. This is about the third time that I've read it. And it is a letter written to James Baldwin in response to his poem, Staggerly Wonders. My poem is called As Regards Staggerly. 1. Dear Jenny, Earth year 2024 by the European calendar. I am aware that there are other ways of telling time here in the belly. Now I'm writing on the back of and as regards Staggerly. And if you wonder, we have not wandered far from the yellow line on which you last observed us dancing. Having completed the payments on a deferred dream, which is now permanently out of stock, no refunds proffered, free, unsolicited, but you should have anticipated it, stark, raving, mad scent. I'm searching for the opt-out and telling Susanna, don't weep for we. As niggas calculate degrees of freedom ciphered in dead black and brown bodies and political devolutions, if you catch up, they pull the track back. Ethics circling the drain like a crack hose bathwater. And though a peak pragmatist, they're still cogitating the restless meddling and arranging of ideology not baptized in a weary funk of sugar-spun democracy. 2, America's defaulted to a long-running carnival, and niggas ain't cracked this code yet. Maybe running into the future and beyond, trying not to be crazier than you got to be on a low-energy turn on a planet consuming itself, led by those least equipped for epiphanies or authoring the contours of sanity. 3, my son goes to Paris to paint on Victor Hugo's walls. He returns to the land of La, his life a canvas dreamed in brushstrokes. He's of the quicksilver chariot set, moving without borders, setting sail and returning to this place. Deracinated smoke, still funneling the whirlwind, fugitive in still life. And if one wonders what the niggas are doing, we're marching, sculpting, protesting, painting, filming, singing, writing, rioting, installing spells to gather the dispossessed. We are prayer warriors and timekeepers, waiting for time to get its shit together and right its wrongs, waiting for the truth to arrive alive, waiting for history to change, the channel itself, us. 4, meanwhile, back in the loony bin, slipping in the slime of capitalism over everything, no exceptions, over Big Mama's dreams, over the blue ball on which we stand, over the future of children, over children, aging, would-be gods, but not good men, battle in the crumbling halls of Camelot. And we dazed, days spent laboring to fit into a derailed dream, running and rerunning on the backs of the thrown away. And do you wonder what the niggas are doing? We are calling up poets. We are channeling the dead and dancing life from grandma's prayers. And while history don't change, we defiantly pick our teeth with thunderbolts. We remember to remember. And we refuse to come out of the middle passage calling for law and order. Like law and order ever meant anything other than a bunch of niggas on death row. As if law and order ever meant anything but sanction war on us. We have not learned to delay gratification. We remain ungratified. And Susanna ain't never cried for us. Time, history, and truth get high together. They actually the same character in a country song, they just keep changing their name. And all the rest is mostly the same. And niggas are aware that no one has discussed anything at all with the niggas. And our ancestors still speak to us. They say, niggas, if you can read, run! And if you can't read, run anyway. My days are not their days. My ways are not their ways. And I would not think of them at all did they not block my brother's view? Did they not block my view of my brother? Did they not block the view between my brother and I? Did they not block the view? We've been made no offers that we should not refuse. We continue to resist imitation, creating life everlasting from day to day in the belly, looking through third eyes, waiting outside the birthing room, waiting for time to get dressed and come for history, waiting for the truth to come on and shine a new day, waiting while history changes for tomorrow. We wait. Hurricanes and dynamite sewn in silk pads. And Julie, write back if you can. Much less likely things are happening.
We'll shift to our audience Q&A, and I do have a microphone that I'll bring around. We have time for just a few questions. And remember, we love questions, less so comments.
Hello, great to hear all three of you, wonderful. I'm a fellow Poet Laureate of Dublin, California, that's near Danville, and my question is, what have you learned about your poetry and about the state of poetry in your roles as Poets Laureate?
Where are you? Can you raise your hand? Oh, okay, thank you. All right. I already knew about poetry. That's why they let me be the Poet Laureate. And I think I was supposed to learn perhaps the art of saying the right thing in the right room at the right time. I am a fragmented individual. I think we all are more fragmented than we'd like to admit to. I found that I paid attention to that for about 5 minutes, and then I just decided I'd be myself in all the rooms. It was too late. I was already the Lord. So that's me. What did you guys learn?
About myself and as a poet.
And the state of poetry
is,
yeah.
So, in 2023, I had it was like 120 events. And I've always thought of myself as a giving, try to be a giving person, but, and I call it like a high engine. Like a lifetime ago, I used to play soccer, and just it was challenging that year, and I learned that about myself. Just where my time and energies had to be conserved so I could be present at each event, because I didn't want to sell any event short, whether it was a massive thing with this person or this group or some little library with 20 people there. I really want, for better or worse, I'm not saying I'm person of the month or something, but I really wanted to try to be present for each one. I am remembering and don't ever want to forget that I'm a poet first. And so I am glad, just on a personal note, that I'm writing. And as far as the state of poetry, I always balk at trying to offer something on that one. But I will say that you can go anywhere and you wouldn't think it, but a town of 3,000 people, and there will be 80 of them at the library, a Friends of the Library event, a poetry group, of all ages. I did an event for an organization in DC called the Center for to redefine or against social isolation and loneliness. They basically work with people experiencing social isolation and loneliness. So I love that part of it. But the one thing I keep coming back to is how many young people are really writing a lot of poetry, and a lot of really great poetry. I co-judged the Get Lit Slam finals in LA, and that's an incredible organization. Or groups like Brave New Voice. all over high school. I just emceed the Poetry Out Loud finals in California. That's a recitation contest, but it's everywhere. And maybe I'm biased and I'm seeing a lot of it, but I like to talk about it in the same way we ought to think about music or film. Poetry is a pretty vibrant art form, so it's nice to see it wherever I can find it.
Yeah, I'll just real quick, I'll just say, I don't think the state of poetry is ever separate from the state of social contradictions and the general disposition of hegemony in this country. And I think what typifies this little sub-epoch is just this hyper-individualism. And in that way, I think I fear that the arts in general has doubled down on this, allow me to be the grumpy, the grumpy cousin. But you know, you have, like we see with the Trumpism, that was well funded by billionaires. You know, it's not just out of Trump's imagination. This neo-Confederate tendency that would like to save capitalism with some kind of handmade tale, you know what I mean? But then you have another segment of the ruling class that would like to double down on this kind of classic neoliberalism that requires tokenism. Because it requires non-white people to play along. And so I saw, well, you know, maybe I'm the oldest lawyer, you know, in my lawyer thing, and I was there where it kind of ballooned. Where all of a sudden, there were all kind of lawyers, and that was a position people were gunning for, and there was also a civic manipulation. And then in a time where policies are getting more and more right-wing, and are pushing more and more kind of austerity, attention gets pointed to this groovy poet that might stand outside of a classic white supremacist definition of intelligence. And people are doing so terrible or need bourgeois permission or the bourgeois stamp to feel like they're even doing something in the first place. You have a whole gang of people, including apparently myself, lined up to let that be enough for my praxis, at least concerning art. Like, okay, I'm arting. As opposed to how can I really recapture means of cultural production, put the creation of cultural reality, put it back where all of this poetry came from in the first place, because we are the non-commercial art. We're supposed to, in a way, we almost transcend the ambitions of people and even the brainwashing of people. We're kind of just like this trickster boy sitting back making fun of everything, right? But unfortunately, as these times get more and more desperate, that power is inhibited. So actually, like the state of poetry, to me, the state of mass culture in general is just very inhibited, very meek to ruling class agenda. And in conclusion, my favorite airport to fly out of is Boston. United, specifically. As a 6'8" person, I depend on the realness of people at counters to just go ahead and give me an exit roll, even though I didn't pay for it. And so I've been dancing this dance for years and years, and people are more and more frightened to give me that exit roll. But you know who does not care? There are these old school, really all white, working class, old white women at this one United, in this little pocket of the Boston airport. They never remember me, but every single time, they don't even wait for me to ask, let me get you a better seat right now. And they don't give a fuck with the system, you know what I mean? They don't give a fuck if they was told to charge people or all, they don't care at all. They go out of their way, they turn the screen around. Like, this is which one do you want? You know? That is faded. That spirit is faded, you know? Used to be, you could, if you were a revolutionary, you could get shot and get stitched up without having to go to the hospital by a real doctor. We used to really take care of each other, you know what I mean? But now we're just all in these coloring within the corporate lines, and poetry or poets have unfortunately not put up enough of resistance.
We'll have one more question here in the back.
Hi there. Thank you so much, all of you, for your readings and your conversation. I just wanted to bring a voice into the room. I saw Khalil Fazra speak yesterday, and something he said was, it'll even just that he's not propelled by hope or joy, but honesty. And a lot of his talk was about trying to, or I was struck by how he was trying to balance sort of the need to be present in one's joy and pleasure, and also to be present in the urgency of responding to a current moment. And so my question is, I wonder how y'all are orienting around the subjunctive mood these days, in terms of things that should have been, things that could be, things that you dream of, and also sort of like what I think of as this like double-sided sword of the subjunctive mood, both like shame and hope, and like resignment and hope. Yeah, just like how you write towards that, and even maybe like how you move towards that beyond the page. Thank you so much.
Well, I'll just say a brief comment on part of what you were saying about the subjunctive mood, and if you're talking about politically in the country, what concerns me is there's not going to be the death of poetry or the death of music, or is there any more good rock music? I mean, the arts are going to be all right despite the funding for it. But logic is what concerns me, and that's a big problem I see. Where take the statement Black Lives Matter, and then someone would say, well, what about this? That's a lot, aside from maybe racism, just logic, flawed logic. And I telling a class the other day, if I say I love broccoli, it doesn't mean I hate corn. Yeah, I like it too, but I'm saying broccoli's important. But you know what I mean? But now people believe that. Yeah, what about these lines? Okay, but we're talking about this. So that's what I worry about. I'm sure that the gadgets don't help. I just wonder about our ability to just pay attention or relax or get lost for a little while without panicking. Just the pace of things is so fundamentally different now, and then along with that, a lot of other things fall by the wayside. I know that doesn't directly relate to Honey's quote, but I hope I spoke to what you were asking.
Quick one, and it really is in craft. I'll just make a voice out of it, or a narrator out of all of it, out of every facet of the psyche. And they asked Stephen Biko, how did our people live with oppression as severe as apartheid? And he said the human psyche has to experience the full range of its emotions, and so it's going to conform. Because you can't just be in a rage all the time, even physiologically, right? Where art is good for consciousness is we can then take these different facets of our psyche and actually do a critical analysis of the energy and of what is energizing them, or what is attaching themselves to. And so it's actually why we're lucky, especially as poets, because we're just thought, is that really every aspect of yourself can become actually several characters that you can just put in motion on the page and see what happens, and they'll have, almost their own evolution.
Everything is always happening at the same time. People are being born while people are dying. You can experience great joy or personal pride or appreciation of something at the same time that horrible things are happening in the world. It is a matter of where you choose to shine your attention. And always, all of these doors are accessible. It is an individual choice of whether you close doors behind you, whether you leave all the doors open, or if you go into one room and never come out of it. Life has an amazing amount of fullness, and I think that sometimes we crave constant happiness or constant joy, or we feel like the world is in turmoil. Everything is always happening at the same time. Every basket that gets handed to an infant in the world has sugar and salt in it. The proportion of those things might vary, as does the appreciation of each of those things. And so, I think again, as an artist, you say conversation after conversation after conversation, and I talk to you about the details that you collect. I think that your periphery of observation, of gathering the color of experiences expands, because no matter what you do, paint, film, sing, living humanity is actually your medium. The things that matter to humans are the things that you sing about, or create symphonies around, or paint great pieces of art around, or write books or poetry around. So I personally never have to go and look for joy. It's always there, right beside the rage and the pain. It's giving myself permission to know that there are other rooms. I don't have to stay in one of them.
For that, I know we're done. I just want to say one thing. If there is some kind of, like, there might be someone in the room, right, who wants to go run tell how we are terrorists, or, too radical for this laureate position, or whatever you want to put, you can tell them all of that, anything. Tongo is a communist scum, I don't care. Just whatever you do, please do not tell United Airlines that in Boston there is a renegade unit.
We are so grateful to these extraordinary poets. We'll keep your secrets, and we'll share the ones that you don't want us to keep secret. Please give a huge, joyful round of applause. We do, of course, have their books for sale in the hall. Please make sure you grab some of their incredible work. Please make sure that you spend a little bit of every day thinking of poetry in yourself and sharing that with the world. And have a wonderful National Poetry Month. We hope to see you again here at Mechanics Institute, and have a wonderful